Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. Good morning, everyone. So I'm just waiting to go live on Facebook and then I will be fine. But I hope you're doing well. So I'm live on here as well now. So good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Today, I am talking about should you join my Rise Cultural Coaching Program? So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. Hi, Lydia. And I have been doing this work. I'm a therapist, first of all. I'm a therapist, I'm a mom, I'm an entrepreneur, and I absolutely love what I do. I absolutely love what I do. So today I'm going to be talking about should you join my Rise Cultural Coaching Program. So just to give you a little bit of background, I run a mastermind for Black women. Happy New Year to you as well, Lydia. We have to catch up soon. It's been too long. But yeah, that's another conversation. But yeah, so I run a mastermind for Black women, and I my Rise coaching program is a 12-month process where you'll have the opportunity to work with me in a really small, intimate group, and it's all going to be about your self-love. Okay, being unapologetic about your self-love. So you'll have the opportunity to work with me on various different topics, as I said, over a 12-month period. We pick one theme for each month, and then you'll have the opportunity to work with me through over the course of the month with that theme. You'll do one masterclass, okay, where I'll teach you the introduction, the nuts and bolts and whatever of that particular theme. The second week of the month, we'll do I'll do a live Q&A, so you have the opportunity to ask me any questions, pick my brain about whether it's the topic, the theme of the month, or any other things that you've been working on. And sometimes I'll do a little presentation or whatever it is. But it's a really good opportunity for you to just ask me anything that's been going on for you. The third week of the month, this is a new thing that I've introduced to the group, is what I'll be doing in an abundance class, and that can be anything from purpose, money, relationship, whatever it is, around abundance and being able to nurture that. And we'll explore all of the themes around why it's difficult for Black women to feel abundant, and what to do about it. So that's the third week. We'll talk about abundance. And then the fourth week of the month, or the last week of the month, you have an opportunity to connect and whatever with the other ladies as well. So it'll be a free space where you'll be able to do that. So that's basically what happens on a monthly basis. Okay. So then obviously across the year, we'll pick a theme, like I said, for each month. So you'll have an opportunity not just to kind of, I like to dive deep. Okay. It's important to dive deep. So the classes that I do in this Rise program, people will have an opportunity to really dive into their stuff, to share with the other women as well what's going on for them and what's happened for them around the theme. And then obviously I'll give live feedback as well in this session. So there's a lot to do, but it's a very gentle process. And I spread the theme over the course of the month, so that you really have an opportunity to work with whatever's coming up for you. Sometimes it takes a bit of time for things to come up and to be worked through. So I really give you the opportunity to do that. Okay, so it's 2 hours on a Sunday evening, from 5 p.m. till 7 p.m. London time. So you need to check your times and stuff as well to see if that works for you. But yeah, that's just a little bit of background as to what the actual Rise program is about. And I'm going to share with some reasons for you, if it's going to be for you or not, because obviously without understanding, what's going on for you, and if I can offer, if it's going to be available to you, if it's going to work for you, you need to know, a bit more about what's going on with it. So if you we've just finished the holidays, okay, we've just finished the Christmas holidays, and it might be that there are some things that have come up for you around being with family and stuff like that, that you're like, you know what, I think it's time for me to look at this stuff. Sometimes you can go into you meeting up with your family and stuff over the holiday, and you can be in fantasy about how they behave, about all the dysfunction and stuff that's going on in the family. And every time the new year comes around, you might think to yourself, well, actually, that fantasy has been shattered, because I'm in the reality now of this is basically what my family is about, and I can't change them. You can't change other people. You can only change your reaction to it. So it might be that you're ready to really to start to look at this stuff in a lot more detail, and to really focus on yourself, right? So in order to do that, you know, you need to find a really safe space, a really a compassionate space for you to be able to really start doing this work. So, you know, if you're feeling like right now, like you're really ready to stand in your power, you're ready to stop people pleasing, you're ready to stop waiting for other people to change so that you can start feeling better about yourself, that ain't going to happen if you're waiting on other people to change. Okay, it's not going to happen. You need to focus on your reaction to those people. Okay, how you respond to those people, what you do with the triggers that come up. Okay, so the course is for you. This Rise course is for you if you're ready to stand in your power. And if you're interested in joining me for the mastermind, you can click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. Okay, so the next reason why this coaching program might be for you is if you're tired of doing this work by yourself. I hear this all the time from, there's so many of us as Black women that are you know, reading a lot of self-help books. Maybe you might even be going to having a therapy already one-on-one, but in terms of your relationships with other women in a collective sense, you're struggling with that kind of stuff. You're struggling with that. Okay, and quite often this is why group work, you know, therapeutic group work can be quite powerful, because then you begin to understand your relationships to relationships. You begin to understand your relationship to Black women. Okay, and if you've got mother wound issues, or you've got sibling issues that are very painful that you're finding difficult, being in a group setting, a safe group setting, is going to give you the opportunity to start to unpack a lot of that. One of the things that's different about the way that I work as well is, you know, when women come to me and say, you know, oh, I'm not sure if I want to, you know, I don't really get on with other Black women. I don't know if I can work with other Black women. I don't trust other Black women. You know, all those conversations that seem to always happen when it comes to Black women. That's actually part of the process that I use in the groups. We have those conversations, and every time I bring up that conversation and it's opened up the dialogue within the group, it immediately reduces the anxiety in anyone that's having those feelings. And sometimes we'll laugh about it, you know, and once the women have been in the group for a while, it's so funny that we always laugh about it, because I sometimes tease them about it. I say, remember that time when you said, oh, you know, I don't trust other Black women, or I can't work with other Black women, and all that kind of stuff. You know, and we laugh at it. It becomes something that we laugh about over time, because we realize that, you know, the way that I work with women, we have that conversation. We're honest with each other about those anxieties. We're honest about the reasons. And quite often it is because there are unhealed mother wounds, because they don't understand their own relationship with themselves, which is why they find it difficult to relate to other Black women. And so just opening up that conversation and making it a safe space for us to have that dialogue without feeling judged or shamed, or anything like that. There are boundaries put in place for the women to be able to have those conversations in a really, really safe way. And over time, they begin to trust each other. They begin to nurture each other. They begin to respect each other in a way that they've never had before, you know, around other Black women. So that can become really, really powerful. And, you know, they recognize that, you know, doing the work by themselves, you can only get so far. You can only go so far by doing this work by yourself. After a period of time, you need to be able to reach out and work with other people, whether it is, you know, whether you're working with a therapist one-on-one, or whether you're working in a group. You know, you need to be able to start to do this work with somebody else, because there's only so much that you can do on your own. There's only so much you can do on your own. There's only so much understanding you can do on your own. You know, you need to have other people in the group, or somebody else to help you, so that, you know, they can give you a different perspective. And one of the reasons that I give so much live feedback in the group is because then they begin to understand. I share from my own experience quite often. I will share my own experience of what stuff that I've been through that sometimes helps people. And also as a therapist, I share it from a therapeutic perspective. And there's also the cultural context that comes in with it as well. So they're not that, you know, they're getting it from different angles. And then then you get the opportunity to then really, really think about, okay, well, how does this apply to me? How is this showing up in my life? How is this showing up in the way that I relate to myself, how I relate to in the workplace, how I relate in my relationships? And also it gives them an understanding as well of what's the pattern, where did it come from? One of the posts that I put up recently this week, actually on my Instagram, was about the concept of understanding the three objectives of healing work. Okay, the three objectives of healing work, when we talk about racial healing work, okay, not just healing in general, racial healing work. Number one, you need to understand your relationship with whiteness. You need to understand your relationship with whiteness. Number two, you need to understand your family patterns. Okay, so you need to understand your past and how your past has got you into the present. And then number three, you need to understand and nurture and reframe the relationship that you have with yourself. So there's a lot of self-parenting going on, a lot of self-parenting in the present, a lot of exploration into the past. Okay, as to what it is about your family dynamics and stuff like that that have brought you into this place where you are today. And then obviously, because we still live under the system of racism, that component needs to come into it as well. This is another thing that I find, that I hear a lot from the women that I work with, is that they're tired of being of feeling invisible in white spaces. They're tired of feeling invisible in white healing spaces, or they may go to a therapist that doesn't really understand the cultural context, or they might even go to a Black therapist who hasn't done their own racial healing work. Okay, they haven't done their own racial healing work, and they don't understand how the cultural context comes in to the situation. They don't understand white supremacy as a system, and so they can't actually explore that with clients because they haven't done the work themselves. So this is not just about white therapists. This is also about Black therapists or healers or whatever, that haven't done their own work around this stuff, and so they can't actually apply it. They can't actually apply it to the healing process. And this is probably one of the core reasons why clients choose to come and work with me, because that's something that I specialize in. That's my gift. This is something that I've been doing for a long time. This is something that I've been doing a long time, both personally and professionally. That's my gift. That's my juice. Is sharing with people what the cultural context looks like, exploring that and seeing how living under the system of racism has impacted that area of your life. Okay, so if you've been in a situation where you've been doing this healing work for a while and you don't, and you've been in white spaces, or you've been to therapists, Black or white, that are not giving you that cultural context, that is one of the core reasons for you to join the program, because not only do you get that experience live with me every week on a Sunday, there's also a huge library as well, which I forgot to mention at the beginning. There's a huge library that I have online as well, with hundreds of masterclasses, live streams, book suggestions, resources, worksheet. There's loads of stuff in there. So what often happens is sometimes they'll, if I'm doing a masterclass, we're doing a session or whatever on Sunday, and somebody will ask me a question about something, I'll say, okay, well, if you go in the library, you want more information about this particular topic, you can go to this category. There's a live stream in there that will tell you about X, Y, or Z, or whatever it is. So then you can self-educate as well if you need a backup about certain things, and more information. And I'm adding stuff to it all the time. As I'm continuing to learn as a therapist and in my own personal journey, I'm always adding stuff to the library. So this library is a massive resource of things to be able to help you to along with your along with your sing. Let's see. So Lydia's asking, is it just for Black women, or can other women of color join? It is actually for Black women, only because the context is to do with the context is African centered, so it is for Black women only, I'm afraid. So sorry about that. It is specifically for Black women, because I niching down in that, and I do talk a lot about the context within slavery and all of that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of the stuff that I teach might not actually be relevant. It might not be relevant. So that's why I kind of to niche down to make sure that the conversation is centered around that, because I don't want to exclude anyone who's not a Black woman, you know, that wants to join. If you're biracial and you know, Blackness is part of your heritage, and you know, your dual heritage, then that's fine as well. But yeah, so it is, you know, ultimately for Black women, unfortunately. So yeah, thanks for the question though. It's important to ask that. So yeah, so question number, so the fourth one is, which I kind of shared already, which is about the cultural context. Okay, if you want a cultural context to your healing process, if you want to be able to have that conversation and unpack that, okay, like I was just saying before, it's important. It's important, you know, and I if you, wherever you're doing your healing process, however you're doing it, if that conversation is not part of the process, then you need to ask yourself why. Okay, you need to ask yourself why, if you know, the cultural context is not already part of your healing process. Because living under the system of racism, you know, you have to, it has to be part of the conversation. It's not for discussion. It needs to be part of the conversation, because we're living under a system that is still oppressing us. You know, I can't remember the last time I went on social media, not even social media, on the news or whatever, and you know, we're not seeing that it being acted out. Racism is being acted out. It's being played out everywhere, and so this has to be a part of your process. We explore in the cultural coaching program. We explore the history, and also we explore what's going on currently and how it actually plays out in your behavior, how it plays out in your relationships. You know, last year I just finished we finished a course that I did on it's called Decolonizing Desire, and it was all about unpacking how racism shows up in your relationships. And you know, it was really powerful. We talked about shame, we talked about you know, your inner Black child, all of that kind of stuff, and it was really, really powerful. And I'm going to be taking like some of the best elements from some of these, you know, these courses that I've had, and dive even deeper as part of the Rise program. So if you're interested in joining me for the Rise program, click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So the last thing that I want to share with you as an important reason for you to join the Rise program is that, you know, the work that I do is trauma informed. Okay, it's racial trauma informed, and what I mean by that is that also that's something else that I'm sensitive to when I'm teaching, when, you know, when we engage as a group. Because you know, a lot of the women that I work with are coming from backgrounds where, you know, their parents were abusive, so there's huge mother wounds. And you know, we all know, you know, if you're a Black person, you know, a lot of us have had conversations about how our parents used to beat them and all that kind of stuff. Do you know what I mean? And so there has to be an element of understanding how trauma plays out as well, not just within, from an external perspective within their family dynamics and stuff like that, but also how being in a doing group therapy essentially is what I do in this course, doing group therapy, how that can trigger all of those old stuff. And that's what I believe is at the root of when Black women say, oh, I don't trust other Black women, I don't trust other Black women, I don't trust other Black people, or whatever. You know, it's normally rooted in unhealed trauma that's not been dealt with. And so it's a self-protection. It's a form of self-protection. Okay. It's a form of self-protection. And, you know, if you haven't done the healing work, if you haven't done your healing work and you're finding things difficult, you are going to get triggered. You are going to get triggered. But the way, again, that I deal with it is by giving women the opportunity to, and I engineer the conversation to be able to have honest dialogue about the trauma, not in a shaming way, not in a judgmental way, but I create a really safe space where women can come in and they can have those conversations to be able to do that. That stuff doesn't come later on, not until later on down in the course, because obviously it's going to take time to build trust, to build understanding, and to really get into the flow of, you know, showing up every Sunday. And hi Rose, thanks for joining. Oh my gosh, hello Rose. So lovely to see you. Yeah, it's just really, really important to be able to to take your time and to be really, really gentle, be really, really gentle about how you do this work. And, you know, I take this work very, very seriously. It's, for me, it's really sacred work. It's really sacred work doing this stuff. And so I don't take for granted that people are just going to, you know, people are just going to want to come and work with me. And, you know, I'm, you know, talking to them, you know, doing all my therapist stuff and whatever. Yes, I'm a therapist, but I actually really, really do care about this stuff. And I understand the complexities of what it means to be a Black person and trying to do this healing work and deal with all of the triggers that may happen, you know, around being vulnerable, you know, being vulnerable with other Black people, because it's not always safe. It's not always been safe for Black people to be vulnerable with each other. I know for me, that was my story. You know, it took me ages to actually find a good therapist. And even now, sometimes I'll find it difficult to be vulnerable with my therapist or whatever, because, you know, my default is Black people can't be trusted, especially Black women, you know, and that's my one mother wound stuff. That's my historical stuff, you know, that's playing itself out. But the difference now is I understand what that trigger is and I understand what it's about. And so I can have that conversation with myself. I can have that conversation with my therapist that I'm feeling vulnerable about whatever, or I can go to a recovery meeting and I can have a conversation about these things because I understand what's at the root of it. You know, if we're not willing to have the conversations about, you know, the trauma that's happened within our own families, and that's probably the yes, you know, we know that white supremacy is triggering, and all of that trauma that happens from living under the system of racism. That's one aspect of it. But an important element that I work with in the Rise program is helping the women to understand the trauma that's happened within their families, helping them understand and to process the trauma that's actually happened within their families. And that, you know, that can be very traumatic for a lot of the women to be able to go through that process and understand and have the honest conversation with themselves, you know, about it. But ultimately, it means that, you know, once they begin to have those conversations, it becomes easier for them to be able to keep having those conversations and to begin to trust themselves and to begin to trust other Black women, you know. So Rose is saying, so glad I was part of your group, June, as I definitely learned Black women can be just honestly, if Rose, I was so humbled to be able to work with you, you know, over that period of time that we did work together. And, you know, and Rose was one of these women that, you know, her transform, I mean, obviously I won't say too much, but the transformation was just wonderful to see, you know. And I'm so glad that you were able to learn that actually Black women can be trusted. It's important, Black women can be trusted, but it needs to be done in a way that is really intentional. And that was one of the things that I really, really did focus on as part of that I have done in the past when I set this thing up, but also it's something that I really, really focus on going forward, because, you know, if we can't learn to trust each other, then it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. So bringing the women into, you know, a group process, and this is one of the things that is really powerful, like I was saying earlier about the group process, is that once you've just got to try it. That's what I always say, just try it. You know, I always smile internally now when women start talking about how they don't trust Black women and all the rest of it, because I know that after a certain amount of time, that, you know, it will get turned around. You just have to be willing to trust the process. You just have to be willing to trust yourself. If your gut is telling you that, you know, let me just give this a go and see what happens. And, you know, if you decide to join the Rise program, you know, you can cancel at any time. You know, if you think that it's not for you, you can cancel at any time. But you need to give it a chance and do the work and give yourself an opportunity to settle in, because, you know, it's gonna be like a bit of a roller coaster at times. You're gonna have times where you're gonna feel vulnerable. You're gonna have times where you're gonna feel sad. You're gonna have times where you're gonna feel, you know, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on, and all the rest of it. But that's just part of the process. That's part of the healing process. But in addition to that, you'll also have moments where you'll feel empowered. You'll feel empowered. There'll be insight. There'll be insight that you'll gain from doing this. You know, the amount of aha moments that I've seen in the women's faces, and that is just such a beautiful thing to see, you know, because then it just helps me it just makes what I'm doing worthwhile. it just makes what I'm doing worthwhile. So that's it. That's all I have to say about, some of the reasons there why it's important to or reasons why you might want to join the Rise Cultural Coaching Program. So if you're interested in joining the sessions, then you click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. If you've got any questions at all about anything that I've shared today, please drop me a DM, or you can drop it in the comments below if you feel comfortable. If you're not comfortable, then obviously just send me a DM, or you can email me at info@yardofgreatness.com. The first session with the program actually starts there's a check-in session, like a welcome back session for all of my mastermind members on Thursday, where we'll just do it, a general overview sharing session just to check back in after the holidays, now that the holidays are finished and everything, and then the first session on the Rise Cultural Program starts this Sunday. Okay, this Sunday coming, and it's going to be about how to create a self-love practice, a daily self-love practice. Okay, so if you're interested in joining me for that, then obviously reach out and let us know. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I look forward to hopefully seeing you in the program, or I'll see you next time. All right, take care. Thank you so much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, so how do okay, so now I'm stuck. I had to to end this live stream on here. Okay, so where am I? To end this live stream on here. Okay, I'm still. Um. Okay, so now I'm stuck on this. Okay, so wait, Zoe, I'm not finished yet. Wait a minute. Ah,